In an army camp, the cook walks around banging his pan loud enough to shake the whole place, and most of the sleepy soldiers start dragging themselves out of bed, including Encred, who has been nothing but trouble for the others, so he got knocked down in rank and now leads a group of fools who can barely follow orders, and no one really believes he can lead them anywhere but trouble. The scene shifts fast as the battle call breaks the cold morning air, and the attack begins. And Encred, standing with his squad, knows deep down he has no special power like the others, and no hidden gift waiting to shine, but only hard training, and scars that got him this far. And even though his body moves on the battlefield cutting down one or two enemies, he feels it in his bones that it is not enough, and his strength is slowly running out. The ground soon welcomes him as his legs give up, and the truth hits him harder than any sword ever could, because no matter how much he trained or how strong his heart was, his dream of becoming a knight now slips away right in front of him as the battle rages on, and the only thing left is the cold thought of dying like this. His hand stretches out toward his sword one last time, hoping the steel would give him courage, but sharp pain holds him back, and the fear sinks deeper when the faces of the ones who always mocked him fill his mind, and he wonders if they are smiling now that he is done for. As his sight fades and the world grows dark, something strange happens, because standing in front of him is a blue flame floating still and quiet, like it is waiting for something. And the next moment his eyes fly open, and he finds himself back in the same bed the same morning and the same cook banging the same old pan. At first it feels like a bad dream, nothing more, but when the soldier next to him says the exact same words as before, a cold shiver runs down his spine, and his head fills with a heavy feeling like the world is playing some kind of cruel trick on him. The day pulls him back onto the battlefield, and the same fate wraps around him like a trap. And the moment the sword finds his neck again, the burning pain reminds him this is no dream and no lie, and by the fourth time he lies on the ground staring at the sky, wondering if he is trapped forever as the same battle keeps repeating over and over. Now Encred knows what will happen to him, but even with the fear crawling under his skin, he refuses to give up, and he keeps standing on the same battlefield waiting for the enemy to charge. And when the attack comes, the enemy's sword moves with perfect aim and perfect speed, heading straight for his chest. And this is the 17th time he watches his own death come closer and closer, yet his body can do nothing about it, just like all the times before. His mind sinks into quiet regret, thinking if only he had trained harder, if only he had pushed himself more, if only he had sharpened his skills better. Maybe all of this could have been different, and maybe his end wouldn't be so slow and helpless, as he now drifts once more into the space between life and death. In that cold, dark space, the blue flame appears again. But this time it is trapped inside a strange old lamp, and standing nearby is someone sitting on a boat who looks like a soul reaper, and his voice is slow and sharp as he tries to break Encred's spirit, telling him that no matter how hard he tries or how strong his heart feels right now, sooner or later he will give up and fall into despair, just like all the others who hit the same unbreakable wall, standing in front of their dreams. But the words do not crush him. Instead, something inside Encred burns brighter, and his eyes fill with strong, unshaking determination, and the moment his heart refuses to bend, the world pulls him back. His eyes snap open once again, and he wakes up in the same bed the same morning, the same sound of the cook banging the same pan, and this time he does not waste a second as he turns to Rem and tells him about the bug hiding inside his boot. Rem checks and finds the bug just like Encred saw and crushes it under his fingers. And while putting on his shoe, he glances at Encred and wonders if this was all some kind of joke. But Encred calmly tells him that he saw the bug crawl into the boot earlier because this is the 18th time he has seen that same little bug. And deep inside his head, the quiet thought echoes, how many more times will he have to see it before this nightmare finally ends? The scene now shifts to Encred's childhood, where he chooses the sword when he is still just a small boy. A retired mercenary comes to his village and teaches him how to hold and swing a sword. And Encred tries his best every single day. One day during practice, the mercenary smiles and tells Encred that he is so good, maybe he could even become a real knight one day. Those words sink deep into Encred's heart, and that is the first time his dream is born. A dream that even a weak boy like him could someday become a knight, who stands tall on the battlefield and fights thousands all alone, and changes the flow of a battle in a blink. Like many children with big dreams, Encred starts to believe that he can become just like the hero from the song. The Knight of the End, the one who ends wars and earns the respect of every soul in the kingdom. That is the moment Encred decides he will leave the village and chase his dream to become the main character of his own story. But the world does not work the way dreams do, and it shows its cruel face early. The other mercenaries he meets laugh at him as soon as he joins their group, They make fun of him for small things, even calling him a coward for running from a stray dog. That is when Encred learns that talent is something he does not seem to have, and the world will not hand him anything. Still, it is too soon for him to give up, and he puts all his trust in hard work, believing that effort will never betray him. So he trains every single day, swinging until his arms can no longer move. In time, he grows stronger and sharper, and slowly people around him start to notice, and hope begins to return to his heart. But hope breaks fast when a 12-year-old village boy challenges him to a duel. The boy only touched a sword 6 months ago, but even so, he defeats Encred, the same fool who trained for years until his palms were ruined. That defeat crushes Encred's heart and makes him wonder if all his effort is for nothing. If being born untalented means there is no escape, no matter how hard he tries. Even when the world tells him to quit, Encred holds on. He stops caring about food or sleep and swings his sword under the moon and under the sun until his body has nothing left. Even when all he can do is make small cuts on a tree, he keeps going because if he can't be the knight of his dreams, maybe he can still become a strong soldier. He screams at the unfair world and keeps swinging because that is all he can do, and 3 years pass this way. Now in the present, Encred serves in the Cyprus Division. 4 companies, 4 platoons, 4 squads, and at the bottom of it all, he stands as the leader of a second-rate squad. That is the best place he has reached after all his insane training, but still, it is far better than being a lost mercenary. He is now a soldier of the kingdom. One morning, Encred walks up to a squad member named Jackson and asks him to take care of morning duty. Jackson glares at him a little but agrees, saying Encred owes him next time. Rem, another squad mate, watches this and comes over, teasing about how Jackson looks at Encred even though he is the squad leader. But Encred does not care about that. He only tells Rem to teach him the heart of the beast again. Rem looks surprised and wonders why Encred wants to learn it now since he gave up on it before. Not long after, the Naulilia versus Aspen battle begins again, and just like every other time, Encred dies on the same battlefield. Over and over the same day repeats, and even though he hates it, he uses the time to keep learning the heart of the beast from Rem, hoping to survive one day. But even after so many tries, he cannot see the tip of the sword that always ends him. Now it is the 21st time. Encred steps onto the same battlefield, and this time he has the fight memorized like a storybook. First, he dodges the spear that flies from behind. Next, he moves fast before the man sneaking up behind can strike. Then, he reaches the spot where his squadmate Vel should die, but this time Encred jumps in and blocks the arrow and pushes away the enemy that would have killed Vel. His plan finally works. The arrow does not kill him, and he is still standing. But one last enemy is waiting, the same one who has stabbed him in the neck 20 times before. Even now, his heart hopes this time will be different, because he knows what to expect and believes he will see the sword clearly and stop it. His memory flashes back to his training with Rem, who told him his greatest weakness is always closing his eyes when danger comes too close, leaving his body open to death. Rem had thrown an axe at his neck to prove the point and told him to become a beast that does not fear death, a beast that fights with its whole heart to survive, the heart of the beast. Encred asks himself if he is still afraid of dying, but he knows the truth. He has faced death too many times for fear. Death is now an old friend who only makes him stronger. For the first time, his eyes stay open, and he sees the enemy's blade as clear as the sky. He moves fast and dodges the strike. His sword cuts through the air back at the enemy, but the expert swordsman is not shaken. He uses a clean and sharp move, and once again the cold steel finds Encred's neck and ends his life. Darkness returns, and so does the Soul Reaper waiting in the boat. The Reaper once again tries to break his heart, telling him to give up, to rest, to admit he is weak and climb onto the boat to find peace in the afterlife. But Encred's will is harder than stone now. He refuses to give up, pleased with the fact that even if he died, this time he saw the enemy's sword and dodged it once, which means he is getting stronger, even if only step by step. And so, as the sun rises on the 22nd day, Encred is ready to stand on the battlefield again and challenge his fate one more time. The 33rd time, Encred stands on the same battlefield again, and now the moment the first attack comes for him, the one that killed him so many times, he finally sees it. Clear and sharp, his body moves. He dodges it perfectly, but the fight is not over. The next attack comes even faster than the first. His enemy is too skilled, too quick. Before Encred can react, the blade finds him, and just like before, his body falls to the ground. Another death, another reset. In the dark place between life and death, his mind drifts back to one of his old mercenary days. Back then, he had once taken a quest to help a village with monster trouble. He hadn't really planned to help. He was only passing by. But the villagers begged him, and deep down, he couldn't refuse. Protecting the weak was what a knight was meant to do, after all. After risking his life to clear the monsters, all the village elder gave him was a small charm. It was cheap, almost worthless, but the old man said it was special, that it would grant what Encred was wishing for the most. Now lying there between life and death, Encred wonders, was this charm the reason the day keeps repeating? Was this the gift the old man promised? The endless loop forcing him to become the knight he always wanted to be? But the thought is interrupted. His enemy stands above him. The soldier, with that fake kind smile, says he'll show mercy and end the pain. Encred knows the truth. There is no kindness behind that voice, only a monster enjoying the kill. The blade falls. Darkness comes. And again, morning. The same bed, the same loud banging pan, the same moment when Encred tells Rem that there's a bug inside his boot. Rem crushes the bug, annoyed, and scolds Encred for being such a pain. But Encred ignores him. He tells Rem to come outside. He wants to train in the heart of the beast. Again, out in the cold, Encred dodges Rem's attacks like never before. Rem is surprised. He didn't expect Encred to move like this, to feel so hardened, so sharp. He tells Encred the truth. The heart of the beast isn't something a person can learn this fast. It is a secret family technique, and it takes time and real danger to master it. But Rem doesn't know the full story. Encred has lived through hell. He has faced death over and over. The fear, the pain, the moment of the blade sinking into his neck. His body remembers it all. That's why now his reaction is sharper than before. Rem thinks it's just luck. But Encred doesn't argue. He only asks to spar. Even if he masters the heart of the beast, Encred knows it won't be enough, because even now, he has no strong attack to strike back. He only knows the Valen mercenary sword technique, an old, strange style people often mock. Some say it's more a trick than a real sword style, but Encred has something else in mind. During the spar, he tries to copy the exact stab of the soldier who killed him all those times. His body remembers the motion perfectly, and for a brief second, the stab looks flawless. But Rem, stronger and more skilled, knocks his sword away with ease. Still, Rem notices. Out of all the moves, that stab was the best. He tells Encred to put more power into it. Not just strength, but confidence. Rem explains the best he can, though his words are clumsy. He tells Encred to stab as if the enemy is already dead, to attack like the kill is certain, so there's no room for fear or hesitation. Encred understands. The difference between his stab and the soldier's deadly stab isn't strength but belief. He must stab with the intent to kill. Not like he's hoping to survive, but like he already has. He tries again. He fails. The day repeats, and repeats, again and again. The 111th day. The 123rd day. Each time sharpening his skill, each time dying, until finally. On the 134th day during training, he moves faster than ever. His stab is so strong, so full of intent, that even Rem has no choice but to dodge it. Blood runs down from Encred's hands. His grip is iron tight, his eyes sharp, and his smile wide and wild. Rem stares at him. For the first time, even Rem is caught off guard. He calls him crazy, scolding him for pushing so far. But Encred doesn't care, because at last, after so many deaths and so many days, he has mastered the stab. The stab that killed him is now his. The first time Encred tries this technique, he only manages to graze the soldier's head. Even though he fails and gets stabbed again, he doesn't flinch. He doesn't even drop his sword. The soldier says his usual line, claiming it's mercy, but Encred promises him that tomorrow he will die. The soldier smiles, thinking it's a joke because the dead don't get tomorrows. But Encred knows this time will be different. Before the bug crawls into Rem's boot, Encred crushes it and tells him to take his guard duty. Rem wonders when Encred became so pushy. This is the 125th day of the loop. Encred asks someone named Big Eyes to get him some shin armor, a shield, and a dagger, promising to pay later. Big Eyes hesitates but agrees, saying he trusts Encred. Rem watches, noticing that the squad commander is getting a bit pushy. Jackson shrugs it off, saying they always push their tasks onto him, so this is just revenge. Rem doesn't know what to say, but he can't ignore that something feels off, like Encred is holding onto an extra tension. As Encred trains, his mind begins to wander. Every time he dies, It hurts. What if, after thousands of tries, he never wins? What if there's no way out of this loop? He's stronger now, but is that enough? Shouldn't he be happy with what he's learned? No, he steels himself. Giving up was never an option. He has to break through the wall in front of him. He sharpens his technique, determined not to waste the blessing he's been given. With his resolve stronger than ever, he equips his gear and focuses only on moving forward. Encrid and his squad join the ongoing battle, and he's ready. He's not a skilled fighter, but he survives through 3 things: preparation, luck, and staying calm. On the 46th day, his left shoulder is shattered by a spiked mace. The next day, he rolls to dodge it, but someone crushes his head instead. These experiences make him better. On the 71st day, when a soldier cuts off his foot, he learns from it. That's why he's now wearing shin armor and can easily take out that soldier. On the 89th day, an axe splits his head open, but he trains in throwing weapons, so he's ready next time. No matter how much he trains, he can't ignore the claw of the hawk, the sharpshooter who always stays behind him. Encrid can't take out the sharpshooter, but he can protect Vel. Then comes the wall, the toughest challenge yet. The stabbing soldier attacks with his shield, and Encrid uses this to break free. Dodging and stabbing won't help him win, but his strategies do. The soldier is strong, almost like a prodigy, but Encrid knows something the soldier doesn't: real fight experience. Encrid uses this knowledge to his advantage. He headbutts the soldier and then uses the Valen mercenary technique. He scoops dirt in front of his boot and throws it in the soldier's eyes, gaining the upper hand. The soldier, angry at this provocation, goes for Encrid's neck. Encrid dodges expertly, and they end up standing back to back. The soldier attacks, again, but now Encrid knows exactly how the stab will come. He strikes his sword, breaking it in a way that leaves the soldier open. At that moment, the claw of the hawk takes another shot, but an axe flies from Rem's hand, breaking the arrow. Just in time, Encrid now has the advantage. He prepares to deliver his final blow with his own technique. Encrid finishes his revenge, the stabbing soldier finally paying for all the pain. Rem wants to take out the bastard, but the battle is still raging. Encrid raises his sword in the air and declares this mercy, cutting off the soldier's head, breaking through the wall that had kept him trapped. But just as he takes a breath, a strange being attacks, sending him flying. His team looks on, surprised, and Rem yells that it's a frog. After being struck in the gut, Encrid lies on the ground, pain coursing through his body. The frog person looks down at him, irritated, saying he spent a lot of resources raising the soldier Encrid had just fought. He's disappointed that a weakling like Encrid managed to defeat him. The frog lunges forward to finish the job, but before he can strike, Rem rushes in, blocking the blow and launching his own counterattack. The two begin fighting fiercely. In the middle of their battle, another enemy soldier tries to kill Encrid with a spear, but Jackson steps in, swiftly killing the soldier and saving Encrid's life. Rem and the frog pull back for a moment, sizing each other up. Rem says that if the frog wants to kill the squad commander, he'll have to go through him first. The frog is surprised, thinking Rem is the commander, but Rem knows better. He realizes that the frog people are warriors, born to fight. He'll have to either burn him with magic or pierce his heart to end this battle. The frog seems confused, questioning why someone like Rem would be on the battlefield fighting for Encrid's life. The frog decides it's not worth risking his own life for the fight and steps back, disappearing into the chaos. As Jackson helps Encrid out, the rest of the squad fights off any remaining attackers. Eventually, they hear the order to retreat, which Encrid gladly obeys. It's the first time in a long while that he's survived a day. He feels himself being pulled back into the land between the living and the dead. The boatman tells him that while he survived, it's the last time. He won't be able to break through the walls that will appear in his future. His fate is filled with despair, and maybe he should just give up. But Encrid rises slowly, defiant. He tells the boatman that walls don't exist to stop him. They exist to be overcome. The boatman likes his spirit, but warns that one day, those eyes filled with hope will lose their light. Encrid wakes up in the infirmary tent a little later, with Rem sitting beside him. Rem says he's been out for 2 days, and he was the one who saved him from the frog. Encrid didn't know he was hit by a frog, but he's surprised he managed to survive it. Rem explains that his bones weren't broken, but his head took a pretty bad shake. He also reminds Encrid that they're best friends, right? Encrid raises an eyebrow, teasing Rem, saying he never called him a friend, only a noble hunter. This shuts Rem up, and he grumbles about Encrid blurting out people's secrets. Encrid is just glad to be out of the loop, alive after so many days of trying to survive. Later, Big Eyes, whose real name is Kreis, shows up in the infirmary. He wants payment, 3 times what Encrid owes, since Christ paid for Encrid to get treated. Encrid asks him why he wasn't around when the battle started, not seeing him anywhere. Christ threatens to give him a special discount if Encrid keeps quiet, which Encrid accepts. A while later, Jackson comes in and hands Encrid some medicine, telling him to apply it twice a day, morning and evening, but he's not allowed to ask how. Jackson got it. Encrid notices that it's the same ointment Jackson always uses, and it surprises him. Jackson never shares his personal items with anyone. At that moment, Auden comes by and starts praying for Encrid's recovery, but Encrid quickly tells him to leave. He's not dead yet. As night falls, Encrid wonders why everyone is taking shifts, watching over him. They're probably busy, so why would they care? Maybe they're worried about him. Ragna walks by and is surprised to see Encrid in the infirmary. Encrid notes to himself that Ragna is the last person who would care if the world ended tomorrow. Besides Ragna, there are 2 other soldiers in the infirmary, a platoon commander from another company, someone Encrid used to pick fights with, and a soldier he doesn't know by name who is always staring at a wall. Just then, a person with long ears and royal armor walks in, asking for the commander of the 444th Squad. The platoon commander looks up and right away he notices the woman standing there is not normal. Something about her feels strange, almost like the air itself holds its breath. She is a fairy. She asks him what group he belongs to, and the commander stands up a little straighter, proud and strong, and tells her he is Vengeance, leader of the 3rd platoon in the 2nd company. But the fairy tilts her head, her voice still calm, and says it seems like his company forgot to teach him the right way that a soldier should say his race first when meeting a higher rank. Vengeance lowers his head fast and says sorry, feeling a bit small in front of her. Encrid stands nearby, just watching. His gut tells him this must be the new commander of the 4th company, the one he heard whispers about but never met. So, like a good soldier, he stands tall and introduces himself too. The fairy glances at him and says she already heard stories about the soldier who leads the hardest squad. She says she looks forward to his future work and then turns away, like it is nothing important. But just before she leaves the room, she stops. Her eyes fall on a young soldier resting on a bed in the infirmary. She asks for his name. The boy stays quiet for a moment, thinking hard, and then says his name is Krang. Encrid watches the kid close, real close, and right away he knows the boy made that name up. Smooth and fast, like someone used to lying. His attitude is too calm for a fresh soldier talking to a commander. Encrid wonders if maybe Krang is a noble, one of those rich kids who never follow rules. But the fairy doesn't ask more. She only looks at him for a second and walks away. Knight Encrid notices his body is not hurting so much anymore. His strength is slowly crawling back piece by piece, and his first thought is sneaking out to the training grounds. But before he can even stand, Vengeance spots him and shakes his head, calling him an idiot for trying to act tough when his rank is still the lowest. Encrid says nothing, just walks off to find a quiet spot and sit alone. His mind starts to drift, rolling back to the last battle, replaying every hit, every swing, every single step. The whole fight plays like a loop inside his head. He spent a lot of money to learn this trick, sharpening his mind the way a blacksmith sharpens a blade. He remembers his attack, the swing that could have killed or saved him. If he missed, he would have died. No second chance. His thoughts even drift to Rem, wondering what Rem would have done if he had died. But before he can finish thinking, a voice speaks. It's Krang. The kid says he saw him twitching earlier in the infirmary and now finds him sitting here lost in thought. Encrid explains it's part of his training, going through the battle in his head, preparing for the next time so he won't get butchered. Krang listens and then, with a little smile, asks if Encrid is aiming for something big, something in the future. Encrid looks at the ground, quiet for a second, then lifts his head. The answer is clear to him, always has been, even if people always laugh when he says it. But this time, he says it anyway. He tells Krang he wants to become a knight, but Krang doesn't laugh. He just looks surprised but stays silent, and that silence feels strange to Encrid because this is the first time someone doesn't laugh at his dream. Krang stands up fast, saying he forgot something important, and then Krang tells him if he ever becomes a knight, he better remember the name Krang. For the first time, Encrid feels it, a little spark of something warm, like someone is standing beside him, supporting him. Morning comes, and a wandering minstrel walks into the camp, singing about legendary heroes and brave men. Vengeance sits nearby, grumbling about the bad food like always. Encrid walks outside and finds Jackson waiting for him, asking the same old question, asking about his wounds. Encrid gives the same old answer. Jackson grins and tells him if he's fine, then hurry back to the squad. That night, Krang wishes him a good night, and Encrid says it back. Vengeance rolls his eyes and jokes, saying if they're that close, They should just marry each other. Encrid leans back, lets his eyes close, thinking this day was plain, just another quiet day where nothing really happened. But morning comes, and the same song is still playing. The same food complaints from Vengeance, the same question from Jackson in the same spot, with the same smile, and that's when Encrid knows something is wrong. His heart sinks deep into his chest. The truth hits him sharp. He was already dead. Someone had killed him while he slept. He never even felt it, never saw it. Died like a dog in the dark. But the anger sharpens him. He knows now the quiet is not safe. The enemy didn't break the front lines, so someone must have slipped inside. An assassin. Maybe even someone from the inside. His mind rushes back to the fairy lady, her quiet steps, her sharp eyes. Fairies are known for silence, known for speed. Maybe she came yesterday just to gather information, but Encrid knows better than to point fingers without proof. All he can do is wait, but the enemy doesn't wait. A sharp sting hits his neck. Poison. His body turns cold, the numbness crawling fast. His knees hit the ground. His fading eyes spot Vengeance nearby, lying still, poisoned the same way. Krang, the kid with the made-up name, gets stabbed straight in the chest, his blood soaking the bed. And then another shadow steps inside the tent. Encrid lifts his eyes, and the face is no stranger. It is the company leader. He wakes up to the same morning again and sits quietly on his bed, while thinking about how, even when he stays sharp and alert, he still cannot feel them, and this makes him know deep down that it will be hard to stop them. And even if he does, somehow, manage to survive, he still has to face the company commander, and after that, the real nightmare will begin, because killing the commander doesn't make things better. It only makes it worse, and hopelessness starts crawling back into his chest faster than he thought it would. But Encrid is not the kind of person who stays down for long, because he has passed through too many trials already, and he always comes out on top, even if it hurts, and even if he has to die again and again. So this time will not be any different. And he pulls the sheets over Vengeance and gets ready to strike, because the assassins should have sneaked in by now. But the tent is quiet, and it makes him feel like maybe he should worry more about the outside. Vengeance watches him and wonders what in the world he is doing. But then he tells himself that Encrid is probably just hunting cockroaches, which is something that suits him perfectly. And Encrid hears that and feels surprised for a second that Vengeance would care enough to say something like that, and Vengeance gets mad for being looked at like that. But before they can start arguing, Krang steps inside and looks at both of them acting strange and wonders if he should just leave them alone and let them keep bickering. But Encrid tells him to come in and keeps fixing his bed, while thinking about how last time the assassins didn't kill him first, which means Krang must have been their real target, and that only makes the questions grow louder in his head, because why would they go after Krang, and just who is he really? Usually Encrid doesn't like digging into people's business because his team does that enough already, but this time it involves him too, and that makes it different. So he just asks Krang what he is, and Krang stands there stuck like he doesn't know what to say, but finally tells him it's a long story and not something he can say right now, and Encrid just nods and lets it go, even though Vengeance cannot believe that Encrid gave up so easily, because he has a bad feeling about Krang. And the more he thinks about it, the more it makes sense that Krang is not from this country, which means he has to be a spy from somewhere else. Krang must feel the room getting colder, because he steps closer and tells both of them that he has never and will never betray the kingdom. And when Encrid looks into his eyes, he sees something strong and clear shining there, the will of a knight. The kind of will that makes a man stand tall even when he has no sword. But Encrid knows Krang is not a knight, because if he was, he wouldn't be so powerless against assassins. And that is all the proof Encrid needs to know that Krang is hiding something, and it must be something big. When night falls and they all say goodnight, Vengeance stays quiet, and Encrid knows it's not because he is tired, but because maybe now he is scared of Krang too. But there's no more time to sit around and wonder, because Encrid can feel it in his bones. The assassins are coming, and they are coming fast. So he gets up and tells the others that assassins are about to break into the tent, and they better follow him if they want to stay alive. But they all just stare at him like he's gone crazy, and someone asks how he even knows that. And right then, a sharp pain hits his body at a vital spot, and before he can even lift his sword, the assassin moves like a shadow and kills all of them in just a few seconds. And the next thing Encrid knows, he wakes up to the same old morning and hears the minstrel singing the same old tune, and he knows the loop has started again. And no matter how hard he tries, the others will not believe him in time, and the assassin will always move too fast and too quiet for anyone to stop him. Encrid tries to get help from the commander, but the commander only tells him to go away, and the next time he tries to predict where the assassin will strike, but it does not help because the assassin still finds him and kills him in an instant. And even when he tries to ambush the ambusher, he dies without ever seeing where the attack came from, because the assassin can see everything he does, but Encrid cannot even see his shadow, and as long as he cannot dodge the poison blade, he knows. He will always fall before doing anything at all. The 20th morning comes and the weight of despair sits heavy on his back, but Encred refuses to stay down for long because dying only 20 times is nothing compared to what he has faced before, so he tells himself to think harder, and the first thing he needs is a way to stop the needle and a way to avoid attacks that are too fast for the eye to follow. So he goes to Jackson, because if anyone can help him figure it out, it is Jackson. While they are training, Encred hears Rem calling Jackson a wild cat and asks why, and Rem tells him that it's because Jackson always sneaks up from behind and attacks when nobody's looking, before running off like a cat, and that makes Encred realize that Jackson might be the only person who can teach him something useful for surviving the assassins, and even though Encred knows he cannot bring Jackson into this fight because he has no authority to drag him into it, he also knows that in the end, he must climb over this wall by himself. So Encred asks Jackson if someone was to stab him in the back, what could he do to stop it? And Jackson thinks for a while, and then just says that he is not sure, because nobody has ever survived his ambushes. Encred keeps thinking about the talk he had with Jackson because something about it stays in his mind, something that feels important, and when Jackson notices the way Encred stares at him so desperate for answers, he finally gives in and says that the secret is simple. A person always needs to have eyes in the back of their head, which makes Encred pause and wonder what that even means, because nobody has eyes back there. But before he can ask, Jackson points toward the tents and says there's a wagon passing behind them right now, and when Encred turns around, his eyes go wide because the wagon is actually there, and he cannot believe it. Encred stares at the wagon still rolling away and asks Jackson if he's some kind of magic man or prophet, but Jackson just shrugs and says, the wagon is about to break apart any second, and like magic, the wagon falls to pieces right in front of his eyes, and Encred feels a little chill go down his back as he wonders how Jackson keeps knowing these things. Jackson tells him that it's not magic and it's not a hidden talent either. It's just plain old sound because when the wagon moved, the old axle made a soft creaking noise, and even from this far, Jackson could hear it clear as day. And if a person can listen close and train their ears right, they can start to predict what's going to happen just by sound alone. And Encred feels even more shocked because he didn't hear a thing, not even a whisper from the wagon. Before walking away, Jackson gives him one last piece of advice and tells him that the world is full of tiny sounds and the trick is to keep listening and practice until those sounds start to stand out. And Encred smiles a little because for someone so lazy, Jackson sure knows a lot of smart things, but Jackson only laughs and says not to get the wrong idea, because lazy or not, he doesn't want to feel guilty if Encred ends up dead because he never shared the lesson. And lately Jackson has been trying to learn new things too, which Encred finds kind of funny, but also kind of nice. When night falls, Encred faces the second wall, the second trial that feels like standing face to face with death, and the only thing he has to do is simple. All he needs is to hear the assassin coming, just one sound, just one clue. But when the night grows dark, all he can hear is the usual things like the guards walking around on patrol, the soft crackle of torches, the wind blowing at the tent, but no sound of an assassin, and the silence feels like the scariest thing of all. He keeps listening with everything he has, but the next thing he feels is the same sharp pain and the same cold end waiting for him as the assassin strikes again. And the moment he opens his eyes, he is back in the same bed, hearing the same old song from the same old minstrel. And even if his body is fine, the pain is still fresh, and the lessons he learned are still clear like it just happened. So Encred goes to see Jackson again, because he knows sound is the only answer, and Jackson tells him once more that sound can show the truth without using eyes because it travels in every direction like a wave, and even the smallest sound can tell a person exactly where something is hiding. But the real trick is to find the right sound in a sea of 1,000 other noises and hold on to it. So Encred heads to the busiest part of the camp where people shout, the fires crackle, the horses move, and the flags flap in the wind, and he closes his eyes and tries to pick one sound at a time. First, the flags flapping above him, which must be 7 or 10 all moving together. Then the footsteps of the soldiers walking nearby. Then the talking, the shifting of armor, the wind, and the ground. Every sound has a shape, and every shape tells a story, and the more he listens, the more the noise turns clear. While Encred sits there so focused, Krang shows up and calls him Annie, which makes Encred blink and ask what kind of nickname that even is, but Krang only grins and says it's just a name and he better get used to it. And even though Encred doesn't like it much, he lets it slide because he has bigger things to think about. And when Krang asks what kind of training he's doing, now Encred says he's just sitting here like an idiot doing nothing, even though both of them know that's not true. Night comes again, and the same cruel story repeats. The poison needle finds him. Krang gets stabbed. The loop starts over and over. The 33rd day comes and goes with the same failure. The 34th day. And every day, Encred falls and gets back up. And it becomes clear that what he needs isn't luck or magic or even more experience. The only way forward is doing the same thing again and again until his body learns to do it even before his mind can think. And on that night, something finally changes. Because when Krang tries to sneak up behind him as usual, Encred opens his eyes before Krang can even say a word, and the surprise on Krang's face shows that all this time spent training has finally paid off. And later when the assassin shows up and throws the poison needle, Encred moves fast and dodges with no hesitation. And this time, instead of falling, he strikes back. And for the first time, the faceless death that has haunted him for so long finally has a face. The assassin gets mad and strikes right back at Encred, and even though his moves are fast and sharp, Encred can feel something. The assassin isn't that great at fighting face to face, even with all his deadly skills. He can probably beat him if he plays it right, so he glances at the others to make sure they're okay. But Vengeance is already dead, and Krang is standing up, unsheathing his sword, ready for battle. And even though this assassin looks clumsy when forced into a real fight, Encred knows he can't let his guard down because the man still knows all the right places to stab. The assassin keeps trying to hit Encred, slashing and throwing blades like a wild animal. And finally, one of the throwing knives finds its mark, cutting deep. And just when things are about to end, the fairy commander bursts into the tent, and Encred uses that second to shift his focus toward her, because if he doesn't attack first, he knows he'll die where he stands. But the assassin is faster and throws a handful of poison needles straight at Encred's exposed back, and at Krang too. And neither of them has time to defend, but instead of letting it happen, the commander rushes behind Encred and catches every last needle with her cape, then moves over and shields Krang too, saving them both in an instant. Encred had always thought she might be working with the assassin, but after seeing her risk her life for them, he knows now that isn't true. Though whether she's a friend or just following her own orders doesn't matter, because the assassin is still alive and this is his chance to finish it. So he rushes forward and swings his blade, but the assassin manages to deflect the attack. And seeing no better option, runs away into the night, leaving them with a shaky, blood-stained kind of victory. Krang steps up from behind and says the obvious. The assassin wasn't there for Encred or Vengeance, he was after him, which Encred already figured out because no one hires assassins to kill some no-name foot soldier or a guy like Vengeance, and the commander agrees, calling it sharp thinking for a regular soldier. But Encred notices the way her hand is still gripping her sword tight, like she isn't ready to let this situation go just yet, because now that he knows too much, she can't afford to let him walk away. But before anything can happen, Krang stands between them and asks the commander for a favor, saying he doesn't want anyone to die tonight, and the commander bows her head and agrees to his request, and Krang says he wants Vengeance saved too, because even though he looks dead, he can feel it. The guy's still alive, just barely, and the commander confirms it, saying that with the right antidote, he should wake up soon, which makes Encred wonder just how much she knows about poisons and cures. With the immediate danger over, Krang takes charge, saying they need to clean up the mess fast, because if word gets out that assassins sneaked into the camp, it's going to cause nothing but trouble, and Encred agrees, saying if they leave no trace, there will be no reason for anyone to suspect anything, and soon enough they set the entire tent on fire and let the flames erase every last clue while other soldiers rush in with water, finding only 2 survivors out of 3, which seals the story and erases the assassin's trail for good. Later, as the moon hangs low and the camp falls quiet, Krang and the company leader walk away from the scene, and the company leader says, if that squad leader hadn't gotten in the assassin's way, Krang would have died for sure, and asks if Krang thinks the man changed his mind at the last second. And Krang, with a small smile, says that's exactly what happened, because that guy is just too interesting. And even though he tried to stay out of all this, he couldn't help but get involved. It seems Encred's attitude rubbed off on him, and somewhere deep inside Encred's mind, the hollow scythe of the Reaper, the feeling of death waiting for him, finally fades away. But the boatman, the shadow of death, shows up once again and tells him they'll meet again someday. And this time Encred looks right back and tells him to bring it on, because after all these loops, after dying over and over, he finally beat the day and lived to see another morning. Now that his senses are sharper than ever, he can feel the presence of almost everything around him. But even now, he still can't sense the fairy commander, which means there's still a long road ahead, but at least this time he's walking away in one piece. Before he leaves, Vengeance, who's finally awake, asks why Encred even bothered saving him from the fire since they barely knew each other, and Encred can't believe this guy has the guts to complain about being saved. but he just tells him it's simple. They're comrades, and that's all the reason anyone needs. Vengeance looks away, feeling a little embarrassed since he'd given Encrid nothing but trouble before, but now he sees the guy as more selfless than he thought. And before they part ways, he asks if Encrid is heading back to his squad, which Encrid says he is, and Vengeance gives him a warning to brace himself because there's been a nasty rumor going around the camp, something about the whole base being cursed by some kind of angry spirit. Back at the squad camp, Ragna and Rem are in the middle of another one of their stupid brawls, fists flying and everyone else running away before they get dragged into it. And the fight only gets worse when Rem, fed up, promises to split Ragna's skull open, and Ragna shouts back that he should go ahead and try, calling him a stinking barbarian. That's when Encrid finally shows up, looking half dead but alive, and says the base isn't cursed, but with these idiots around, it might as well be, and tells them to knock it off, which stuns both of them, because they were sure he was already dead. But Encrid just smirks and says if they don't stop, he really will go crazy, and after all he's been through, he's not in the mood for more nonsense. 4 peaceful days pass after Encrid returns to his squad, and with his new sharpened senses, he's the first to notice Jackson sneaking out of the tent, trying not to wake anyone. Jackson apologizes for the noise, but Encrid tells him it's fine. He was about to get up and train anyway. Jackson chuckles a bit and points out how sharp his hearing has gotten, especially for someone who only started honing it a few days ago, and tells him to keep it up, saying he'll help however he can. The days are quiet, too quiet, the usual skirmishes, and battles growing fewer as winter slowly creeps in, which leaves Encrid with more free time than he knows what to do with. So, he uses it the only way he knows how, by training until his body gives out over and over, because that's all he can really do to move forward. One morning, after wrapping up his solo training, he heads back to camp and spots Ain off to the side doing one-arm push-ups with a giant rock balanced on his back like it's nothing. Ain glances his way and guesses Encrid's just coming back from his morning workout, saying it's good to see him staying busy, since a well-trained body is as much of a weapon as any sword. Ain finishes his set and stands up, towering over Encrid like a wall, and tells him that if he keeps up the work, maybe soon his body will be strong enough to withstand a kick from the frog. Though looking at him now, he's still too thin, so he better not slack off. Encrid knows Ain's right, even if the guy's built like a fortress. So he just nods and says he'll keep trying. Before they can change the subject, a loud crash rattles the camp as shouting spills out from the nearby tent. Turns out Rem has kicked Ragna clean off his bed, yelling that it was his turn for duty, and yet here he is, still sleeping like a useless, lazy bastard. Ragna, half awake and annoyed, drags himself toward his sword and hurls it straight at Rem, who already had his axes out and waiting, ready to go. Before anyone can get stabbed, Encrid steps in and breaks it up, asking them what the hell they're doing while Ain quietly prays for their hopeless, foolish minds. Rem grumbles that he's starving, and the guy who was supposed to be on kitchen duty, meaning Ragna, was still snoring away like a baby. Encrid tells Rem to just start cooking already, and after some pointless complaining, Rem agrees. And I me. His way out, Rem mutters under his breath, calling Encrid a bastard for making him do it, even though he was about to do it anyway. But Ragna shoves him aside, complaining about how bad he smells. Encrid watches the two of them bicker and asks Rem if he's really so bored that he's picking fights for no reason. Rem, without missing a beat, admits it. The lack of battles is making him restless and cranky. Encrid tells him not to waste his strength on random arguments and instead invites him for a proper duel, which Rem happily agrees to. They head out and square off, and as the match starts, Rem swings in hard, telling Encrid to take the hits better, pressing him over and over. Encrid stays calm, keeping his focus locked on the rhythm of the fight, letting his sharpened senses and the heart of the beast carry him through each block. But the real difference is in the move he's practiced more times than he can count, the deadly stab he honed through hundreds of deaths. He tries to land it, but Rem is faster, dodging the attack and twisting his blade into Encrid's path, locking him down and slamming him into the dirt, ending the fight in an instant. Rem stands over him, a little disappointed, saying he expected more, especially after seeing how much Encrid's improved in such a short time. But all he's doing is repeating that same move, again and again, which makes him kind of boring. Encrid knows what he means, but deep down, he understands something Rem doesn't. He can repeat it as many times as it takes, hundreds, thousands, and he'll still push forward. Without hesitation, he stands up and beckons Rem for another fight, telling him this time he'll destroy him. Rem thinks his skills are still too lacking, but those determined eyes staring back at him make it impossible to turn down, so he agrees. Just as they square off again, the sky opens up and heavy. Rain starts pouring, forcing them back inside before they get soaked. Rem complains, hoping he doesn't catch a foot fungus from all the dampness, while the rest of the squad settles into their usual routines, some praying, some napping, some just sitting in silence. Not long after, Crisis shows up, stepping into the tent with a scowl, muttering about how many times he's had to cancel duels lately because of the rain. He's starting to wonder if the camp really is cursed. Encrid, curious, asks what curse he's talking about, and Chryse explains it's the same one from the rumors, the one Vengeance mentioned before, about the whole camp being haunted or cursed by something. Crisis points out the strange weather, the rising number of casualties, and the mess with the medical tent, all fueling the talk, even if it's probably nothing more than bad luck. But this rain will only make the rumors worse. Encrid figures the higher-ups won't let the gossip spiral out of control for long, and as they talk, Chryse notices Encrid standing at the entrance, letting the rain hammer down around him, and asks what the hell he's doing out there. Encrid explains that he's training his senses, and the rain makes it even better practice. Reem, leaning against a wall, tells him it's pointless, but Jackson chimes in, saying it's actually a clever way to sharpen his focus, and that it'll help in the long run. Rem gives him a strange look, asking when he started caring about anything, especially training. The others start throwing out their own ideas, suggesting ways for Encrid to improve his posture or learn to read the environment better. And that's when Rem realizes the truth. Every single one of them sees something in Encrid, and they all want to help him in their own way because they want to see the fire in his eyes burn even stronger. Meanwhile, over in the commander's tent, a meeting is underway. The main commander says they'll need to send out a scouting party before winter, locks them in, and asks for suggestions to fill the empty seats. The ferry commander speaks up and recommends the 444th squad leader. The main commander looks at her like she's crazy, asking if she really thinks the guy won't just slow the scouts down. But the ferry commander insists. Sometimes the unexpected ones bring the best results, and she says it's just a feeling, her fairy instinct telling her it's the right call. The next day, Encrid gets the news that he's being assigned to the scout unit. When Encrid returns to camp, still fastening his gear, Chryse is already waiting nearby. With his usual dry tone, he asks if Encrid has somehow upset the commanders. After all, it's hard to believe they'd send him on a scouting mission. Otherwise, Encrid shakes his head, saying he hasn't done anything, though even he admits it feels odd, and Kit, still watching from the side, stays suspicious. His guess is that the ferry commander might have her own reasons, especially now that Krang isn't around. As the squad talks about their ideas, Rem walks over and asks directly if Encrid is really going through with it. He offers to help him out of the situation if Encrid wants. Encrid gives him a flat look, knowing full well Rem's help usually involves swinging his axe at something, and tells him not to get any ideas while he's gone. Given Rem's reputation, it needs to be said. Meanwhile, Auden is already deep in prayer for him, and Ragna even offers to go in his place. Encrid appreciates the offer, but jokes that the second Ragna leaves, the camp will probably get lost, a comment the others don't argue with. Before long, Jackson, always the practical one, gives some parting advice. Since the mission will take Encrid through the tall grass fields, Jackson tells him to focus on the sound of the grass. Subtle changes in the noise can help him detect an ambush long before anything comes into view. Rem immediately cuts in, scolding Jackson for teaching all this sneaky nonsense. Encrid stands there watching them argue, wondering if it's a good idea to leave the squad unsupervised for even a day. Still, he knows better. For all their bad habits, they're a capable bunch, and there's nobody better for the job. Thinks back to when he first enlisted. His skills were lacking, and he'd been moved from one squad to another, always filling in where needed. The only place he ever really felt useful was here, with this chaotic group. Even on the day he first arrived, the camp had been in the middle of a fight, and somehow he had managed to calm things down. He tells them not to worry. Rem, half amused, asks if Encrid is brave or just plain foolish. Jackson cuts in, saying Encrid should be grateful. If not for him, there'd probably be a hole in his chest by now. Rem just grins and says it would have been his head instead. Encrid glances at them, knowing these strange, reckless misfits are still some of the best fighters he's met. It would be a waste to lose even one of them, but thinking too much won't change anything. He knows where he stands in terms of skill. All that's left is to improve. With the scout team heading to the front lines, he figures it's the perfect chance to sharpen his senses. Once assigned to the scout unit, Encrid barely has time to settle in before another squad member reminds him that even if they are the same rank, Andrew Gardner is the leader here. And if Encrid has any complaints, he's welcome to settle it in a duel. Andrew, the scout squad leader, doesn't inspire much confidence. The rest of the team snickers behind Encrid's back, sure that the outcast squad recruit probably doesn't even know how to hold a sword. Andrew, as loud as ever, promises that if Encrid does challenge him, he'll try not to hurt him. though someone as useless as him can't get much worse. Then, turning to the squad, Andrew makes his big plan clear. If the enemy shows up, just hit them hard and be done with it. Encred stands there in disbelief. A scout unit is supposed to be quiet, precise, and careful, but these soldiers are making enough noise to be heard from miles away, and the squad leader acts like a rookie. He starts to wonder if this mission is already set to fail. Later, one of the scouts calls out, saying they find some tracks. Andrew quickly thinks they are from enemy soldiers and starts making a plan to find them, catch them, and bring them back for a reward. Encred feels worried. If these tracks are from a real patrol, there will be at least 20 soldiers, and Andrew seems ready to fight that many. Before he could say anything, another voice interrupted. A nearby scout laughed and corrected the mistake. Those tracks didn't belong to enemy troops at all, as it belonged to an animal, a gazelle. The scout introduced himself as Henry, a former hunter from a mountain town. He didn't seem to have much respect for Andrew, and he struck up an easy conversation with Encred. Henry talked about hunting basics, explaining how animals create distinct paths in the tall grass, and promised to teach Encred more about it the next day. But thanks to Andrew's inexperience, the squad ended up wasting the entire day and night chasing after shadows. Even when the group finally tried to get some sleep, Encred could still hear Andrew muttering to himself, desperate to find something to salvage the mission. The next morning, they reached a stretch of land Andrew called the Green Pearl, though he had another name for it, the uselessly tall grass field. His new plan was simple. They just need to push through the grass, capture enemy. While walking through the grass field, Encred heard an animal footsteps. A black leopard appeared from the tall grass, seeming to be running from something. Noticing this, Encred warned everyone to get down on the ground. A flock of arrows hit them. The enemy has arrived. All the scout, including Encred, ran, but it's no use. They already surrounded. Using Jackson's listening trick, Encred moves fast and gets far away from the ambush. He even dodges some sharp arrows flying at him, but bad luck follows him because the enemies attack from every side, and no matter how hard he tries, he still falls. His last thought is clear that this place is bad and they must stay away from it. He tries to warn the others, but Andrew calls him crazy and even says he will hit him if he keeps saying dumb things. Nobody listens to Encred, so now the only choice left is to save himself. He runs alone in a new direction when the attack starts, but the enemies still catch him. Lucky for Encred, his strange power lets him repeat the day again and again, so he never gives up and keeps trying. One time he gets caught in the open where 20 crossbowmen shoot him down like a sick wild dog, and another time a group of spearmen stab him so many times without feeling even a little sorry. Even when Encred reaches the knights, the enemy keeps hunting him, but this time while hiding and watching, he notices something strange. Their uniforms are green. They must be a special ambush squad, and this makes his heart beat faster. Later, Encred sneaks out from the bushes and finds a huge enemy camp. Something in that camp shocks him so much that his mind freezes, and right then someone stabs him from behind. But Encred does not even care about the pain. He now has something more powerful, which is information. The day starts over. Again, Andrew speaks the same sharp words that make Encred's ears hurt. The plan is always the same. They go in, look for the scouting team, they capture them, and then they expect a big reward. But Encred already knows how this ends. Every time they enter, nobody comes back alive. Now Encred understands the Aspen soldiers are hiding something inside that camp. He must find out what it is, and if he can, maybe he can end this nightmare. He knows one thing for sure, that this time he will not run, and no enemy or man will stop him. Andrew tells the team to move, and one soldier whispers that Encred is always acting strange, but they follow anyway because Andrew has his own problems. Encred feels annoyed, his chest tight with anger, and asks why the soldier puts up with Andrew's orders all the time. Why take orders from a child like that? Or is he only kissing up to Andrew, hoping for some reward? Before the soldier can snap back, Encred pushes him away and Andrew steps in, asking if Encred is refusing his command. Encred shakes his head and tells them it is not like that at all. He says he is taking command now, whether they like it or not. Deep inside, Encred knows that Andrew may be annoying, but he is also a strong survivor. Along with Henry, Andrew always lasts the longest. Henry is the strongest fighter in the group, wild and sharp like a beast, but even Henry shows respect to Andrew, so Encred guesses Andrew must be more than just a soldier. Maybe a lord's son or someone important, but the way he acts does not match. Maybe he is a fallen noble. Andrew draws his sword and tells Encred to prove he is the leader by fighting him. Encred knows a fair fight is dangerous, so he tricks Andrew by saying he won't even use a sword, which makes Andrew even more angry and careless. When the moment is right, Encred strikes fast and hard and Andrew falls to the ground, making the other soldiers freeze in shock. Encred tells them he is the new commander now, and he doesn't care if anyone has a problem with it. The group stays silent. Even the bodyguard says nothing, and just like that, Encred finishes his first step toward changing the future. Later, they move through the bush like before. One soldier wonders what Encred is planning. Encred suddenly asks Henry about his dream. Henry smiles and says he wants to marry a pretty girl who runs a flower shop. Encred tells him to survive the day if he wants that dream to come true. One by one, Encred asks all the soldiers. One says his lover just had a baby and he wants to raise the child. Encred tells him if he wants to be a good father, he must stay alive. Another wants to start a business. Another just wants to go back home. At last, Encred asks Andrew, who says his dream is to bring his family, House Garter, back to greatness because it was his mother's last wish. Encred hears all their dreams and feels something strong inside. They all want to live, and if they trust him, they will surely win. Encred turns and faces the group and puts all his heart into one promise. They will make it out alive. He knows. Words can give them strength because sometimes the will to live is the strongest weapon. The moment feels heavy, but the enemy is close now. Encred suddenly tells Henry to shoot an arrow into the trees. Henry looks confused because he sees nothing, but Encred insists. Henry shoots, and the arrow hits an enemy soldier hiding in the shadows, dropping him on the spot. Everyone stands, in shock, their hearts pounding. Encred tells Andrew to follow him fast, and though Andrew looks annoyed, he follows. Encred plans that this time they will not be the ones getting ambushed, and this time they will strike first. The soldiers react fast when Encred gives the order, but Andrew stays sharp and shuts one of them up before he makes too much noise, and his bodyguard stands close, guarding him from behind like a shadow. With these two fighters by his side, Encred and the group cut down a few enemies, and now the 12 ambushers are down to only 8. The rest of the enemies, even though they just lost friends, get ready to charge in with angry hearts. But Encred does not flinch. His voice stays strong as he tells everyone to kill them all. His team now holds the upper hand, and they fight hard, cutting down most of the enemy until only a few are left standing. The enemy has trouble finding them in the tall grass, and this gives Encred's team the edge. But there is another reason the enemy even spotted them in the first place, and that reason is a beast. It is an animal, one that got stuck between the fight of humans. Before, the beast was a warning of death, but now it becomes something else, something good. Encred watches the creature closely and uses it like a helper, knowing the animal is the reason the enemies didn't spot the ambush fully. And deep in his heart, Encred knows he owes the beast. He silently promises to make sure it gets out alive. The other soldiers shout that the enemy is done, and Encred wastes no time. He tells them to move fast. No waiting, no slowing down. The beast follows them for a little while, almost like it understands what is happening, but soon it realizes it is on its own now. Little does it know, this oversized cat just changed the lives of everyone here and shifted the flow of fate. All. For the cost of only one lost man. Now 6 people are left in Encred's group. He wishes he could have saved them all, but deep inside he knows this is the best he could do. Even one survivor feels like a miracle, but 6, that means hope. They push forward to find the next ambush, this time one that Encred already knows about, all thanks to the many times he lived through this same day. Now he knows where the enemies are hiding and how many there are. He knows that if they keep walking straight, crossbowmen will tear them apart, so instead, he leads them to the right, away from the danger, and straight to the spearmen waiting for them. They fight the spearmen fast because wasting time will only bring more trouble. They hit and run, strike and vanish, using every dirty trick they can because even if honor is lost, staying alive is what matters most right now. When the spearmen fall, Andrew's bodyguard starts to worry. His sharp eyes can see the team is getting tired, and the sky is growing darker. He tells Encred they need to find the exit before it's too late, but Encred simply says they are going deeper, and there will be no arguments. Suddenly, the bodyguard raises his sword and places the cold blade against Encred's neck. His voice is low and heavy. He tells Encred he will not follow him to his death. He says even if it means killing him and walking away, he will find a way to live. But Encred looks calm. He tells the bodyguard it is already too late for turning back. The enemies have heard the fighting, and the way out is blocked for sure. The bodyguard's hand shakes a little, and he asks if the only choice is to follow him straight into the pits of hell. Encred gently pushes the sword away and tells him something simple. He wants to survive just like them, maybe even more because of what he has already done to get this far. Andrew watches all this and remembers the old thoughts he had about Encred. He once thought Encred was useless, just like his father, a man who drank away his life and threw away everything, but now he sees something different. Encred reminds him of the person his mother told him to be. On her deathbed, she told him, Their family was finished, but she still hoped he would become someone strong enough to lead others and rebuild their house. Now, when Encred stands there with sharp, steady eyes and says they will survive, Andrew feels like believing him, as there is no other way. The bodyguard still tries to argue, but Andrew shakes his head and tells him the truth that Encred is the captain now, and the squad follows the leader, no matter what. So the argument ends. Andrew tells everyone to crouch low and follow him. He will give the next signal when the time is right. The first step to escape was to strike first and break the enemy's wall. Now the second step is to stay as quiet as the night. Encred has learned this from many, many repeats. Only at this time and only at this place will the enemy legions pass them without seeing, and only then can they survive. Everything goes just as he planned. And now the final step. When the sun falls and darkness eats the world, the truth shows itself clearly. The real reason they could never escape was always the same. They arrive at the enemy camp. The same camp Encred wanted to reach all along. He knows why the Aspen soldiers fight so hard to protect this place. They are hiding something more important than any of their lives. Whatever is hidden here is the true reason behind the endless ambushes, the blood, the pain, and Encred knows that if the hidden thing becomes more important than the hunt for them, then the enemy will stop caring, and his team will finally live to see another day.